Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Yes, I'm trying to change my name on this.
Yeah, I was a bit
So
confused
can
for
you
a
hear
bit.
me?
So you go to the three dots next to when you hover the cursor over your name, you'll just see the three dots there. There's an option for renaming.
No, I can't see that three dot.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah. I'm logged in on my mobile. If you can rename it for me.
Sorry,
Yeah,
let
I
me
can't
see.
find that three dot. Yeah.
I can't see it either. Let me see. Rename. So what can I call the name?
You remove a two with a name. Let's try and
I
regarde
remove
two
the
and I regarding
two,
two. You just remove a two.
the twos. Change the first one. I change the second one. Let me first promote you to a panelist. Oops.
Jonas Magnus. Yeah.
No. Hold on. I promoted the wrong person. So I changed this one also. Also, this one I removed the two. There is a second name. Is that Sunju? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So there is a second name. What should I rename that to?
Binod Shankar, Binod.
Please kindly spell for me the other one. Yes. Can you hear me? Maybe are you able to test your cameras?
Yes, mine is
Hi.
good.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes, Binod. I would like to
Okay.
change your name.
Just change to Binod, B-I-N-O-D.
Only one
Thanks.
name.
Yes, one name is enough. Can you guys see me? Sanju, can you see me?
I
Not
can't
yet.
see you. Unfortunately, I can't change his name for some reason. Let me try that again.
Can you make me a panelist, Ruth?
I thought you were.
I
You
don't
should be able
know.
to.
I can't share my presentation.
Okay, just a second. Let me just change your name first.
How do I name it? How do I rename it myself, Sanju? I can't rename it here. There's nothing.
Once you become a panelist. It's good.
All right, you should be able to share your screen now.
Nope, not yet. I don't have that on my bottom. Chat, raise hand,
You don't have
Q&A.
it.
No, I don't have it. Are you sure
Okay,
you have
just a
made me a
second.
panelist? Just check again, Ruth.
Try again.
Yes, yeah. Now I said join as panelist.
Okay.
Now you can get my video as well.
Yes. So we have 21 people in the waiting.
Okay.
Do you want to test your
Yes,
presentation
please.
first before we go
Yes.
live?
Yeah. So let me share.
You can't hear us right now, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you correctly.
Okay. Ruth, let me share my presentation. Okay.
Yes. So as you share, I'm testing the polls. They are all okay.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yes.
Your presentation is
Yes.
good.
Yes, please. I'm just putting on to full screen mode.
Okay.
By the way, there is no waiting room. Someone messaged me saying everyone can see what we are doing. There is no waiting room, Ruth. Yeah, just FYI.
Oh,
It's fine. We are good to go, I think. You have the polls ready, yeah?
okay.
Yeah. We can go live now?
Yes.
Ruth, can we go live now?
Yes, please.
So whenever I ask you to run the poll, just run the poll, please, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. You let us know when it's live.
Yeah. Okay, over to you guys. Let me know when I can come online.
Yeah, sure.
Should we wait for a little bit more people to come in? What cap should we use? Maybe 30 before we go live?
I think we can start already, right? Because are we sending a message to, I see there are 27 attendees. Are we sending a message to them telling them that we are going to delay? Or I think we can
I
start
think
already.
they can hear us. They can
They,
all
they
hear
can
us.
they can hear us, I think. Yes, they can hear us.
Yes.
Okay, let's start then.
So we wait for 30, then we start.
I think we can start already.
All right.
I'm good on my side.
All right, Sunju. So I'll just hand it over to you to make an introduction of Binod, and then we'll then I think hand it over to Binod
Yeah.
run with the whole session. You might want to assist him with the back end questions just to pick up the Q&A. I know there'll be a couple of questions that will come to that box. He may not be able to see them if he's projecting on full screen.
Correct.
Binod, you will guide if you'd like to go straight through the presentation and then take the questions at the end. Since this is your session, I'll just allow you to do what works best for you.
I will take the questions at the end, Ruth, as usual. Yeah, fine.
All right. So, Sunju, I'll just hand it over to you now to take it over, and then I'll just be in the background.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ruth. A warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. So I'm Sanju Nargadio, President of SCFA Society Mauritius. Sorry, apologies for this, for doing the setup a little late today. So today's session will be led by Binod Shankar. Let me do a small introduction of Binod first for those who don't know him. So Binod is a charter holder, CFA charter holder, and a charter accountant, and a former senior finance leader. He has worked extensively with CFA charter holders across Africa, the GCC, and Asia on career progression inside large organizations. He has delivered professional development workshops for CFA Society Mauritius, I remember last year in October, and keynote sessions at CFA Society in India events, and previously served on the board of CFA Society Emirates as vice president. He co-founded and led the largest CFA preparation provider in the Middle East and Africa, and is a regular media commentator on CNBC and Bloomberg. Coming to today's session, if you look at how careers actually progress in collectivist professional cultures and what investment professionals can do, finance professionals as well, can do to progress beyond performance alone. Before I leave the floor over to you, Binod, let me thank CFA Society Mauritius board members, our office manager, our sister societies across Africa, namely East Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, and Egypt. Last but not least, let me thank Ruth and Grace for their wonderful support. Over to you, Binod.
Thank you, Sanju, and thanks to CFA Society Mauritius and East Africa for hosting this and making this happen. I'm going to kick off. Let me share my screen first. And let me know if you guys can see it. Hopefully, hold on. Yes. Can you see the screen, Sanju? Can just confirm?
Yes, good. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, guys. The starting point before we delve into what the topic is about, I want to run a small question with you, right? This is a starting point. I want to ask you, and I want an honest answer from all of you. What specific outcome in your career has not moved in the last, say, 1 to 2 years? Yeah? Just write one short phrase in your own notes. No names, no stories. Just write it down. I'll give you like a minute to do that. What outcome that you desired in your career hasn't happened the last 1 to 2 years? Don't say why it didn't happen. Just write what did not happen. That's it. Okay. So how we are going to interact from now onwards, by the way. Quick rule so that it doesn't get messy. There'll be a couple of polls which Ruth will run from our side. Vote when prompted. I'll mention to you that there's a poll going to run. I would love to hear from you and get your feedback on the specific career-related question I'm going to be asking you. If it's a chat, just type the option number only among the options that I'm going to show you on screen. Just type it in the chat box, not the Q&A box, but the chat box. And maybe Sanju can tell me what the responses are by looking at the chat box, which I can't see because I'm running right now on full screen mode. Right, Sanju?
Yes, Binod.
Private, like we did earlier, if it's a private interaction or private prompt, just write in your own notes for your own reference and introspection. Yeah. So 3 ways of interacting: the poll, the chat, and a private note. Fast, practical, and to be honest, it's going to get a bit uncomfortable. That's the whole idea, right? If you want to change, like I say, no pain, no gain. So you have to expect some degree of discomfort, and you might get unsettled, which is good. Without discomfort, you can't expect growth. Yeah. So let's go to the topic, right? But before that, I want you to answer this poll, the first poll, right? In most organizations, strong performance is usually enough to progress. Option 1, strongly agree. Option 2, somewhat agree. Option 3, somewhat disagree. And 4, strongly disagree. Please vote. This is a poll. And Ruth, maybe after 20 seconds, you can share the results of the poll.
There's a hand from someone. I don't know if they're able to view the poll.
Is everyone
didn't
able
get it.
to vote in the poll? All the participants? Hopefully, yes.
Yes. I
So you
didn't
have
get
been
it.
able to see the poll on your end?
No, I didn't get it. Someone is saying that the webinar chat is disabled.
Okay, is the poll
Yeah.
visible now?
Not to
No,
me.
no one can see any poll.
No.
I'm getting messages on WhatsApp saying they can't see the poll.
All right, just a minute. I'm having a failed launch, so I'm trying to launch it again.
Okay,
It should
it's
be
there.
up
Okay.
now.
Yeah,
Yes, I can
it's
see the
up.
poll on
Yeah.
my screen, Ruth. Yeah. Well, as a panelist, I can't vote. So apparently, the host and panelists can't vote. But please, the rest of the participants kindly vote. Yeah. And Ruth, please tell us what others are thinking. I'm really curious to know.
All right, Binod, you let me know when to end the poll, but I see the votes are coming in steadily.
Maybe another 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, very good.
We end it now?
Yes, please end it now.
Do you want me to share the results or
Yes,
just
please.
to mention
Please,
them?
please share the results. Yes.
Please mention it. Yeah.
Yeah, please mention it. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Just to mention?
I don't know how,
Yeah.
can you share it on screen or can you on the chat? Or I don't know how we can share this. Yeah. If you can't, just mention it. It's fine.
Right. So the most votes we have, some have agreed with the
Oh yes,
strongest.
I can see it. I can see it on my screen. The results.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we
Thank
can hold
you.
it there for a minute and then I'll put it down.
Yes. Yes. So strongly agree 0%, somewhat agree 38%, somewhat disagree with the statement 33%, and strongly disagree 29%. Well, no one strongly agrees. That's interesting. 0%. Right. But somewhat agree, 38% somewhat agree, right? The disagrees are about 62%. I'll close the window now. I'm going to continue with the presentation, yeah? So the lie, I like to call it the lie, right? This is what most financial professionals were taught, whether you're a CPA or chartered accountant or ACCA or CMA or CFA charter holder, right? This is what, if you're coming from a collectivist culture, I'll define what collectivist means very soon. This is what we were taught at home, at school, at college, and at work. What were we taught? If you work hard, you will naturally progress, number one. Number two, if you collect enough credentials, after your name, CA, CFA, FRM, CMA, etc., doors will automatically fly open for you. Number three, if you keep your head down and become almost invisible and don't show yourself up above the parapet, your work will speak for itself. These three assumptions or beliefs works well in some systems. When I say some systems, I'm talking about the low hierarchy, rule-based, low power distance systems, right? Like, for example, Scandinavian countries maybe, or maybe certain parts of US and UK or Australia. It fails in collectivist professional cultures like what you have in the Middle East, Africa, and much of Asia, right? And the thing is that, you're trained for exams effectively. But what is happening is that you are not trained for power and visibility, right? All of us were trained for exams, and we are very good at taking exams and passing them and taking more exams and level 1, level 2, level 3, part 1, part 2, but not good at managing and navigating power and managing visibility. And this mismatch between what we believe and what the workplace reality is explains a lot of the silent frustration and misery and stress that we experience in our careers. And I'm going to dig into this over the rest of the session and how to crack this, right? So the session is called Beyond Competence, right? How careers really progress in collectivist cultures. That's the title here, right? Because see, most careers, I'll admit to you, don't stall because of skill gaps. They don't stop because of skill gaps. Why do they stop? They stop because of blind spots about power, about perception, and how decisions are really made in a company regarding promotion, hiring, firing, etc. So I'm not going to bore you with soft skills and LinkedIn hacks and how to network better, things like that. I'm going to talk about the hidden operating system of careers in collectivist cultures like the Middle East, like Asia, like Africa, right? Who gets seen, who gets sponsored, who gets protected, who gets punished, and why competence alone doesn't move the needle, right? So if you're ambitious, and I'm hoping you are, at least all of those who are signed up for this session, if you're ambitious and you're tired of playing the wrong game and tired of being stuck, then this will hit hard. So hold on to your seats. Right, I'm going to use some expressions that will pop up often in the presentation, right? The first is individualistic culture. What is the individualistic culture, right? This is where you prioritize yourself, your achievement, and your ability to express yourself. This happens a lot in Western cultures. North America, Western Europe, Australia are, of course, the most visible examples of individualistic culture. You don't care too much about how people see you, you don't care too much about external validation. You're more bothered about your individual achievement, individual values, living your values, things like that. Right? That is what you call the individualistic culture. The collectivist culture is very different, and that's where we come from. I'm from India. A lot of you are from Africa, maybe some of you from Mauritius as well, and other parts of the world in the collectivist cultures. Here we prioritize group harmony, hierarchy, and relational stability over individual expression. And this difference is extremely important to understand, and that explains why a lot of us have issues adjusting to workplaces and progressing in workplaces, right? The same behavior that you show can be interpreted very differently across these two systems. Something you do in the first may not be acceptable in the second. Something you do in the second may not really help you in the first. So you got to know which game you're playing and where, basically. Otherwise, it doesn't work, right? The scope of this discussion basically is, let's set the boundary, right, for today. I'm not going to give you motivational speech or generic career advice. I don't do that anyway, right? This session is not about CV writing, interview techniques, or how things work in the West, on Wall Street, or in the city in UK. Like I said, it's power, trust, hierarchy. We're going to talk about mechanics, not motivational fluff and bullshit, right? We're going to talk about what really works based on psychology, right? So the first thing that people think about when you're at work, right? What is the first thing that comes to mind when you reach the end of the year or you reach the end of the appraisal cycle? Will I get promoted? Now, what's going to help me get promoted? Who is going to get promoted, right? Right? But do you ever really think of what really decides progression in your company? Have you thought about that? So I want to sort of make you think about this. So this particular section is about how promotions work in collectivist cultures, right? How do they work? So we have two things. We have performance and we have promotion, right? Most people misdiagnose this gap between performance and promotion. They show performance, they don't get promoted. And they see people who are not that well performing getting promoted. And they say, what the heck is happening here? What's going on? Okay. So the thing is, in many organizations, you see, basic competence are basically table stakes. I mean, it's simply assumed that you have the skills, the basic technical skills to do whatever you have to do, whether it is financial modeling or valuation or report writing or whatever it is. Yeah. But senior leaders are judged on the outcomes of people they publicly back. So your boss and his boss, right? Managers, senior managers are actually being silently judged on the performance of people they back and the behaviors of people they back, right? You got to think about that from now onwards, right? So this makes risk to the sponsor, i.e. the person who is sponsoring your promotion, who is speaking on your behalf in the promotion room when the discussions are being made or done. That makes the risk to the sponsor a dominant decision filter for promotions. You need to understand this. So it's not so much about, I have the skills or whatever, maybe, but what is the risk to the sponsor of promoting me? What are the sponsors of backing me? Will it backfire on them? Yeah. And in this whole equation, guys, fairness and merit become secondary consideration, right? he got promoted, I didn't get promoted, I've been here for longer, I've done better, whatever. They all become secondary. It becomes quite different, right? And this risk, by the way, this sponsor risk logic exists actually in every culture. You go to the US, you go to Wall Street, you go to Mumbai, you go to Japan, you go to Johannesburg, you probably see the same thing, right? But how risky it feels depends on the surrounding system, right? What I mean to say is that the risk to the sponsor, the perception of risk to the sponsor will be felt differently by the sponsor depending on whether he is in a collectivist culture or an individualistic culture. So the risk exists, but the level of risk is different. Right? So, and I have been there, and you guys have been there as well, right? Why do a lot of promotions feel political even without corruption? There's no corruption involved. You might work in a big bank or the Big Four or one of the big professional advisory firms or one of the big consulting firms, and you feel that, promotions are unfair and lacking merit. You might even call them nepotism or some other name, right? Favoritism, for example. The reason why promotions feel political is, number one, professional networks are dense, right? What does that mean? Stories about behavior travel quickly, right? Reputations last longer because relationships persist over many years. So people know each other for a long while, they work together for a long while, they keep in touch for a long while. So reputations stick in people's minds for a long while, right? Hierarchy, especially in collectivist cultures like Africa or Asia, the hierarchy, right? Who is above whom, who reports to who, that strongly shapes basically what can be said, who can say it, and when it can be said. And that you need to keep in mind. What you say may not be acceptable. What your boss says may be acceptable, right? And senior sponsors, by the way, when they go out to the room at the end of the year and tell the partner, CEO, managing director, and say, by the way, this guy is worth promoting, and they say it publicly, they actually carry personal reputational risk because they are backing you, right? And they're actually putting political capital, their political capital on the line. Because if something happens and the promotion doesn't work out, then they're going to get blamed implicitly, indirectly. So decisions are also very relationship heavy, not process heavy. So decisions are made based on relationships. And the simple model that explains most outcomes, most career-related outcomes in collectivist cultures is what I'm going to show you next, right? What is a simple model? What really is happening, right? You're going to find this very interesting, hopefully. The model is like this. Now, most of you are trained to build competence. We know this, right? Whether you've done your CFA or CA or both, right? You are never trained, I was never trained, right, to manage safety and timing inside organizations. That was not how we were raised. We were told to be open, expect to be treated reasonably and fairly, etc., right? But career progression usually requires 3 unusual conditions to be met. And you'll see what I mean by unusual, right? Well, first is not that unusual, let's be honest. Basic competence gets you considered for opportunities. So that's definitely, like I said, table stakes. That's like default. You have to be competent at the least. Otherwise, don't even bother showing up or asking for a promotion. The second is quite interesting, which I mentioned earlier as well. The second part of the model is perceived safety that reduces risk for the sponsor who is backing you. The third part of the model is timing that respects the hierarchy and the context of the organization and the culture of the organization, right? Timing is extremely important, right? So effectively the model, if you want to sort of capture it, although it's not a mathematical equation, obviously, is that career progress equal to competence plus safety plus timing, right? I'm going to explain this in more detail. And this model, and we'll use this model to explain why strong performers still don't make it to the top, or don't make it to where they deserve, or don't make it to where they think they should be, right? That's the harsh reality of careers in collectivist cultures, especially, right? Now, I'm going to ask you a question here, right? Like I said, I'm going to keep it interactive. When your career progression slows, as in you don't get promoted at the pace that you expected, for example, or you don't get the role that you wanted during the time that you wanted it, for example, What do you blame first? I'm going to show you some options on screen, right? Skill or capability gaps, not being visible enough, organizational politics, lack of confidence on your part, or bad luck or timing. Choose one and please post in the chat box. And Sunju, maybe you can tell me what you're saying. Who do you blame first? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Like, oh, it didn't happen because of this.
I'm not seeing any responses. I'm not sure, Ruth, if you're seeing.
We have 41 participants, so maybe they're thinking about the responses, Sanju.
Yes, so we're still saying the chat is disabled.
Chat is disabled.
Yes.
Trying to see that post in the Q&A box. Q&A box.
If you can't post in the chat box, yeah, please post in the Q&A box. Exactly, yeah.
Let me see why we cannot post here on the chat, but the
Yeah.
Q&A is open. Please make use of it. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's coming.
I see
Yeah,
questions are
good.
coming in. Responses are coming in.
I'm not going to open the Q&A box because I want to keep my eye on the presentation. Sanju, you can be my eyes on the Q&A box.
Yes. So, Binod, I would say it's mostly number 3, organizational
3.
politics. Yeah.
Okay.
And then so far we have one participant who selected not being visible enough.
Mm-hmm. I want you to be
Yes,
honest, guys.
almost
Don't
all of them,
yeah.
except one. Yeah.
Don't say what you think I want to hear or what makes you look good. Just say what comes to your mind first, right? Let's skip all that BS. Tell me what you would think first. You get an email saying, sorry, your promotion is not happening this year. What's the first thought comes to mind? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5?
So we got one who selected skills
Okay.
and or capability gaps.
Yeah.
And we got now one for bad luck or timing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The first thought that comes to your mind, guys. Don't overthink it.
Yes, Binod. I think, yeah, it's mostly above 80% organizational politics. And then
Right.
few participants selected bad luck or timing and
Mm-hmm.
skills or capability gaps.
Okay.
And one
Okay.
selected not being visible enough. Lack of
Right.
confidence is not there. No one selected lack of confidence.
Okay. Thanks for the summary, Sanju. Yeah.
The chat is also up, I think, but it reflects the
Yes.
same.
I can see the chat is working as well. I can see
Yeah.
some messages coming through, which is good. Fantastic. Yeah. So there's an attribution error here, right? I know most of you said organizational politics, right? But if you picked any one or some of the 5 as the main cause, you're partly right. Yeah. But none of this is the root driver, right? The root cause is, like I said earlier, is whether a senior person feels safe backing you publicly, right? It's not about skills or capability as much, really. Yes, it is there. So maybe out of 100%, like maybe 20% would be skills and capability, and maybe a total of about 30, 40%, 50% might be all the factors you mentioned. I mentioned the last slide. But a majority, probably 60% probably could be whether that one guy feels that, yes, I should back him for a promotion or not, right? And this is the sentence that your boss and HR will never tell you. You will never hear this. You might hear everything else. You might hear all the other 5 points, or maybe the 4 point. No one will mention politics in organizations anyway. It's too, it's not the right thing to talk about. But no one's going to tell you, by the way, that no one backed you in the room, or that no one feels safe to back you in the room. That's rarely going to be an explicit conversation. So you should know it, right? You should know these things, and we're going to get to how to crack the code there. Because this is a blind spot for many high performance, right? I was in the same position 20, 25 years ago when I was in corporate, well-performing, aggressive, fast, agile, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes my promotions got stuck until I found out after discussions with senior managers and partners what really was happening in the room when promotions were being discussed, right? So this is very important. The next two lines, right? This line and the next one. Professional competence is what usually gets you shortlisted, guys. What do you mean by shortlisted? You get into the list. Yes, you get into the room, as in, no, the door opens for you. It doesn't mean that you have a seat at the table in the room. No, it gets you shortlisted. But perceived trustworthiness and safety is what get you chosen, selected, promoted, upgraded, whatever you want to call it. Two different things. Competence for shortlisting, that you need to do that anyway. Otherwise, you don't even make it to the next level. But whether you are safe and trustworthy and reliable is what gets you chosen ultimately, right? So let's test this against promotions that you have personally seen, right? And Ruth, we are going to run the second poll right now, yeah? Called the bet.
Sure. Coming up.
Coming up. Let me show them the questions first, and then you can run the poll, yeah?
Okay.
So this is a poll. Vote from what you have observed, not HR language, not what you believe, not what you think is right. I don't want to hear that. What you have personally observed happening in reality in organizations that you have or are working in, right? Not theory, practice. From based on that, tell me, okay, in practice, senior promotions are mainly decisions to A, there are only two choices, by the way, publicly reward the strongest performer, or two, reduce reputational and political risk for the decision maker. What have you actually seen? And please post in the chat box. And now, thanks, Ruth, the poll is up. Very simple poll, just two options. What have you seen? Ruth, some people are messaging me saying the chat can't post on chat and they can't see. Yeah, are you okay with that? Can everyone post in the chat?
The chat should be up because I have some people who had already posted on the chat.
Okay.
I hope everyone can see the poll because I see.
Can everyone see the poll?
The votes are coming in.
Okay, good. Vote from what you've observed, not what somebody else told you, what you think should be right, and not what HR told you. I think, Ruth, since this is a short poll, you can maybe run the results in the next 30 seconds.
Right.
Yeah. Right, and the results have come in. So 43% said that senior promotions are mainly decisions to publicly reward the strongest performer. 57% said that senior promotions are mainly decisions to reduce reputational and political risk for the decision maker. Interesting. So almost like 60-40, no? Or 40-60. Now I want to pick one real example, right? So we ran a poll now. I want you to pick a real example. Think of a senior promotion you personally observed. Ignore the official explanation given for the senior promotion. Ignore what they told you, what HR and your manager or your ultimate boss told you. And ask why this person that who got promoted felt safe to back by his or her sponsors. Why was this person so safe to back? Because that's obviously most likely the major reason why he or she was promoted, right? Write one short sentence in your own notes, right? In your own notes, not on the chat, just on your own notes. I'll give you 1 minute. You don't have to share it. It's not a chat, it's not a poll, it's a private note. So we all agree that, I hope we agree that people get promoted because their sponsors felt that they were safe to back, politically, reputationally, etc. If that's the case, and you have seen people getting promoted, why was that particular person safe to back? What was the reason or reasons why people felt that he was good to be promoted? Because the risk is low. Actually, you know what, Sanju and Ruth, let's have people sharing on the chat. Let's make it interactive, right? Guys, write in the chat box one line. You don't have to mention names or departments or anyone. This is anonymous, confidential. Just mention why that one person that you saw getting promoted, why was that person safe to back? I'm just curious to know what the audience thinks. Please post in the chat, yeah? And Sanju, please let me know what they're saying, since I can't see it.
Yes. Yeah, sure.
I'm curious to know what the responses are. I can see the chat, the number count of the chat is going up. I can't see the chats themselves. I think it's coming in.
Yes. Yeah, so I'll start giving you already because the answers are
Yeah, why don't you
quite
keep on, yeah, as they
different.
come in, yeah. Like a live
Yeah,
commentary, Sanju, like live cricket commentary, right?
live commentary. Exactly. So let me. So you've got yes men and boutiqueurs because of strong sponsors, better networking with higher leadership, good for business. For some, it's due to their engagement and visibility with a leader. Uh, Wondering, very interesting answer because some organizations like to promote those who conform rather than those who transform.
I
Better
like the
communicator.
wording. I like the wording, conform
Yes,
rather than transform.
exactly. So for others, it's better communicator and visibility among senior management, good relationship with decision makers, very agreeable and well networked with leadership. So it's mostly about leadership, visibility, competence. high level of trust because the person inspires a high level of trust and the decision maker's ability to control that person. Interesting answer. It's
Sorry, what was that?
engagement and
What was
visibility.
that again? Can you repeat what you said now?
Because of the ability of a decision maker to control the person promoted.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Anything else, Sanju?
yes, the guy got promoted because he was a direct hire
Mm-hmm.
of a senior leader.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy can get promoted also because this will make the boss looks good.
Yeah, it's interesting pattern, right? I think
Yeah.
people are quite smart in the audience to pick up the fact that it's not just skills or capabilities or performance that leads to promotion, right? I can hear them all.
Yes.
I can hear them all saying the thing like visibility and reputation and safe to
Yes.
back
So
and
competence is coming less in terms of frequency. It's
yes,
more about visibility, leadership,
yes,
and other decision makers' qualities. I would put in
yes,
between inverted commas.
yes. Correct. Decision makers' priorities. Good. I'm happy that we have this session is progressing in the right direction. I think people are aligned, so to speak, with what we are trying to achieve here, right? So absolutely. So let's try and look at what leaders are silently assessing when they shortlist someone for promotion, right? What they're looking for, and what are the red flags or warning signs that will they are looking for as well, right? So here it is. Who gets backed? The hidden criteria leaders use. I use the word hidden because no one's ever going to mention it to you, either at the time of hiring or promotions or not getting promotions or appraisals, as what this criteria are, right? But you should know it. You should be smart enough, street smart enough to know it, right? Not just academically smart. Yeah. Safety signals. So basically, we're talking about reputational safety, right? Safety for who? The sponsor, the backer, right? So skill, as we know, is not the signal here. Skill alone is not a signal. Let me put it that way. Skill is important, but it's not a huge part or even a significant part of the signal regarding safety, right? Leaders watch whether you protect group stability under pressure. When things go bad, when a deadline is missed, when a client is lost, for example, or a valuable team member leaves abruptly, how do you protect group stability? How do you react? How do you blame? Do you stay calm? Do you do something else? They're watching, by the way. You're being watched when in moments of pressure, right? That's when, that's what they say separates the men from the boys, right? You're being watched. They notice whether you avoid publicly embarrassing senior colleagues. What do I mean by that? Happens in a big meeting, for example, and you say something as a junior, commenting on something that a senior said in public in the same room, for example, that gets noticed, right? No one wants to lose face, especially no seniors want to lose face in a room, especially to junior, right? They also track whether you respect hierarchy even when you disagree. The last four words are actually very important, right? How do you disagree when you disagree with hierarchy, when you disagree with seniors, right? Do you do it bluntly, brutally, openly, directly, or do you do it tactfully but firmly, privately, discreetly? Signals, guys, signals, right? They pay attention to how you manage emotions during conflict. Yeah. Watch all the words I've put in bold, by the way. How do you manage your emotions? All of us pride ourselves on being very smart and rational and logical and all that, and we are not. Let's face it. Yeah, a lot of the time we are not rational. We're actually incredibly stupid and irrational when it comes to critical decisions in our lives and careers, especially when it triggers certain parts of our behaviors or based on conditioning. So how do you manage emotions during conflict? Conflict with clients, conflict with your colleagues, conflict with your bosses, conflict with suppliers, at work. How do you manage your emotions? Okay. So I want you to type in the chat, right? Which behavior do you most consciously regulate at work? Consciously, you manage, you control at work. Open conflict, Number one, causing embarrassment to others. Number two, political risk taking. You don't try and jump the queue or try and show off, for example, or undercut somebody publicly, maybe. Making your success highly visible. You regulate that. Yeah. So just type in the chat, one of the four options. Which one? Just choose one. Which one do you most consciously regulate at work? You are aware of this and you sort of make sure it doesn't happen. Sanju, can you give me a running commentary, please?
Yes. So it's mostly two. Not causing embarrassment to others.
Right.
And then quite a number of participants also selected number 3 and number 1. And a couple of them selected none.
Couple of them selected?
None.
None. Okay.
Yeah.
But the majority is number 2.
Majority number 2 and number 3 as well. It's increasing.
Okay.
And few of them selected number 1 as well.
Okay.
Only one participant selected number 4.
Right. So some of you are probably thinking, if not, maybe that you actually said it. So, we talked about individualistic cultures and collectivist cultures. And we said that individualistic cultures, they reward and they recognize and they appreciate people standing up and being visible. And collectivist cultures are almost like the opposite of that. I know they hammer you down and you sort of should not be too visible and whatever. That is actually very crude. It's not really exactly like that, because what happens is, I'm not saying you should not you should not be assertive, or that you should not be political, or that you should not be visible. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you should regulate all those, because then the question of authenticity comes up, right? You want to, your nature, your personality traits are such that, you're wired such that you want to do these things, right? You're a bit aggressive, you're a bit assertive, you want to be visible, you want to take credit for your achievements publicly often, right? Legitimately. So what am I saying here, you're wondering, is Binod saying, don't say anything, just shut up in collectivist cultures, don't talk to seniors, and don't take credit for success, don't disagree with anyone. Is that what I'm saying? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this line, right? People who progress in collectivist systems learn to regulate when, where, and how they express this. So it's nuanced. My answer is quite nuanced, right? It's sophisticated. It's not a blanket yes or no. It is like, yes, you should express, yes, you should be visible, but if, right? Quite a few caveats. And that's why you need to learn, right? So I'll give you some examples of this if you're wondering, what is it that is really being said here. First example, okay? You strongly disagree with a senior leader in a meeting, right? Public meeting, okay? You hold back in the room, okay? So instead of strongly disagreeing, you hold back in the room. And later, you raise the issue privately with data and a solution. So second and third bullet points is what you could do, okay? Not the first one, because then you're publicly embarrassing a leader. He's lost face. He's lost reputation, maybe credibility. Yes, that can lead to other consequences later that you can't expect or manage sometimes. Depends on the culture of the organization and the person you're speaking to, obviously. Right? That's the first example. Second example, your team delivers a critical result under pressure, right? What do? Okay? You do not claim the win publicly. You don't send out an email saying, all to everyone in the entire organization saying, hey guys, fantastic, we got this contract, this order, or, we achieved this deadline, or, whatever it is, right? Seeing half the world, which honestly speaking is quite tempting to do because you played a huge role in that, right? Yes, your team did it, but effectively it was under your supervision, etc., etc. You don't claim the win publicly. What do? You let your sponsor, okay, talk about the success at the right moment. Who is the sponsor? The guy who can back you at the right moment for what is really important to you, which is a promotion. So do you want to achieve some cheap premature publicity by blasting everyone about your credit that you want to take? Or do you want to hold back and be patient and be politically mature and let your sponsor suffer success so that he also gets the credit? Right? Maybe 1 week or 1 month or 6 months down the line, maybe during a partners meeting or a leadership meeting or retreat or whatever. So I'm giving you 2 examples of how you can disagree. That's number one. And second is how you can be visible, right, in a collectivist culture without doing it openly, strongly, directly, and still achieving your main goal of career progression, which is what we're talking about in this session anyway. How do signals land, right? We're going to talk about 3 things here. How visibility, reputation, and hierarchy shape interpretation of your actions when you are in a career in a collectivist culture, right? Interpretation is very important, guys. I always tell people, people tell me sometimes, hey, Binod, my coaching clients, hey, Binod, I had the right intent. But my answer to them usually is, yes, you may have the right intent, but no one knows what your intent is. You don't know my intent. I don't know your intent. It's all in our minds, right? We are not mind readers. What actually happens is, how is that intent interpreted? How is that intent impacting others is what you should be more worried about, right? Your intent might be glorious, it might be noble, it might be fair. But if it comes across as crude and arrogant and rude, then you have a problem. So we're going to talk about how these 3 things, visibility, reputation, and hierarchy, affect interpretation, can enhance interpretation of your actions, right? Let's talk about the first one that someone mentioned earlier as well, right? Visibility. Now, visibility is not neutral, right? It can't be neutral. It can be positive or it can be negative. There's no neutral exposure, right? Now, the timing of the visibility often matters more than the frequency of speaking up. So please keep that in mind, guys, right? All of us come from cultures where saying a lot or doing something frequently is applauded, where quantity is applauded more than quality. We need to sort of reset that and talk about quality, specifically timing. When do you become visible? Silence at the right moment can signal maturity and judgment, right? Like I said earlier, you want to claim immediate success for something that your team did. Instead of sending out an email blast to half the world, you hold back, right? That's immediately appreciated by everyone who knows you, colleagues, juniors, but more importantly, your seniors. Speaking at the wrong moment, and I'm sure quite a few of you can relate, I can relate to it. Speaking at the wrong moment can be read as threatening hierarchy. And no system likes to be threatened. No individual likes to be threatened. It's a question of survival in the minds of many. And many leaders, as you know, are highly, highly insecure, right? They basically, their entire identity, because of the way they were conditioned, their entire identity is linked to their career and their title and the brand and the pay and the house. So anything that you do, which might be in your mind very innocent, very innocuous, like saying the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong moment, can be actually read as, hey, I'm being threatened. I need to silence this guy or this girl or this woman immediately. You then face the heat. Right? So visibility important, but yeah, you need to be very careful about the visibility, the timing, and everything about visibility, right? Who are you visible to and when? The second element I mentioned to you earlier is reputation, right? Now, reputation, as I think Warren Buffett said earlier, is probably the most important thing, right? Trust and reputation that people have in you, right? Your reputation and their trust in you. You have to remember that in many places, right, the same people work with each other across roles and organizations. especially if it's a big company, a big bank or a big four, you keep meeting the same people uh, at different times in your career, right? Uh, so stories about your behavior travels fast because everyone is connected to everyone else, 6 degrees of separation, etc., etc. So you might do something very innocently in Nairobi or Kampala or Lagos or Johannesburg or Cairo or Port Louis. And you might think, hey, it's just limited to my small team, maximum my office. But no, right? People who know you know someone else who knows someone else. And before you know it, they're talking about you in some other places that you least expect. And when you apply for jobs there, they say, hey, aren't you that guy who did this 5 years ago? And then you went, oh, okay, how did that happen? Okay. Important point, moments of pressure. What do you mean by moments of pressure? Extreme moments, right, are remembered far longer than routine performance. You can be a steady performer, delivering results, week after week, month after month. Every audit you did was completed on time. Every evaluation you did was on time. Nothing extraordinary, nothing exceptional, right? You did that for years and years. But one moment when you made a very bad mistake on evaluation, for example, or you had a glaring error in a report that went out to the public, for example, right? Or you said something in a public platform that was recorded live on TV, for example, right? When a reporter asked you a tough question, for example, those moments are remembered in the public memory far longer than your routine performance. For obvious reasons, right? Our memories are geared to, in many cases, to remember exceptions, not everything. We don't remember everything. No one does. So these extreme moments will be what is remembered about you, right? And how you reacted, whether positively or negatively in those situations. And one incident can shape how you're seen for years, right? Just one incident that went wrong, and we all know about what's happening these days in the news. You don't need me to tell you what's happening in the news. You can see it unfolding over the last 10 days, and you can see that incidents that happened 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago are basically destroying careers today, right? And people have had entire reputations being damaged. So one incident is enough, right? And of course, when the same people keep crossing paths, right? You may not work in the same company, but if you're in the big four, you probably go from one big four firm to another big four firm, right? Same with consulting companies, same with banks in many countries. So people keep crossing paths, people keep getting to be colleagues again, or one person becomes a boss, another person becomes a junior, or somebody else becomes a client of somebody else, whatever. When this keeps happening over a long period of time, the reputation compounds, right? For good or bad. And reputation is nothing but what? Consistent performance, good or bad, right? So just type yes in the chat box, just one word, yes, in the chat box, if this rings true with you, right? Do you agree with what I just said about reputation?
We are having only yeses, Binod.
Okay, good.
Yeah, everyone agrees.
I would have been very curious if there was a no. Good. We are even more aligned. Earlier we had 60% alignment, then 80%. Now I think we have 100% alignment finally, Sanju, which is good.
Yes.
Yeah. Alignment is increasing. Good. So we talked about
Yes.
visibility.
100%. 100% yes.
There you go, 100%. We did it. We achieved a century. So we talked about we talked about initially 3 aspects, right? Visibility, reputation, and I've covered 2 so far. The third one is hierarchy, right? Now, I have to be very careful about this. When I say hierarchy, in collectivist societies, traditionally, the way you were raised and the way you were schooled and went to college and work and society, there's a hierarchy, right? Formal, informal, whatever it is. Yeah. At home, there is a hierarchy. At work, there's a hierarchy. Same thing in school and college. Same thing in society, right? In politics, education, wherever you go, in healthcare. Yeah? So you have to respect hierarchy. You have to be aware of hierarchy. Let me put it that way. It does not mean being submissive. It does not mean being a kisas. Let me be very clear about it. This is about being strategic. It's not about shutting up all the time and blindly obeying orders or praising your boss all the time. No, fulsome praise and flattery. No, it's not about that. It's about being strategic. What does that mean by that? Publicly challenging seniors often weakens group stability, not just the relationship that you have with the senior, which is what I talked about earlier, but even group stability takes a hit because then people start doubting the senior and doubting the chain of command and hence doubting the hierarchy and hence doubting the system as a whole. You see where I'm going with this, right? You might think I'm like doom and gloom, but that's how people perceive things, right? Private dissent can preserve respect while still influencing outcomes. Like I said, yes, in the room with seniors, don't directly challenge anyone. Meeting is over, go to his room one-on-one and politely, tactfully make the point and have a discussion there. Disagree if you wish to, right? Because you still want to influence outcomes, right? You can't do that when you're publicly disagreeing with someone because most likely that public disagreement will be seen as an open challenge, a threat, and even if you make a brilliant point, it will be disregarded, most likely. So if you want to be heard, do it separately, privately. Influence tends to move upwards through careful relational channels. You know how that works, obviously, right? Yeah. You tend to influence people if your reputation remains long enough, if you are visible long enough, and if you work within the hierarchy. Now, so I mentioned visibility, reputation, and hierarchy, right? Now, how do people misplay it? How do they make mistakes here? Okay. And what do I mean by misplay? Misplay basically is strategic mistakes people make because they misunderstood how the system works. These are smart people. These are highly qualified, highly experienced people, right? With lots of successes to their names, but they still make some glaring, incredibly stupid mistakes because they did not understand how the system works. Okay? And of course, they all thought they were being very principled and being honest and, they were being fair, blah, blah, blah. But systematically, structurally, it backfires on them. Right? These are the mistakes they make, by the way, which I hope you don't do. Being right in public instead of effective in private. I've made this mistake before, quite a few times. Okay? Because you want to be seen as right in public. You want to be seen as the good guy, the smart guy, the assertive guy, the confident guy, whatever, right? Or person. Excuse the gender, right? And you choose that instead of being effective in person. Instantly, your career takes a hit. Escalating issues too early without sponsorship. So recently, I was running a leadership workshop with a leadership team, which had a habit of, the juniors had a habit of escalating minor issues to the seniors. I mean, I say seniors, it used to go all the way to the CFO, or sometimes even to the CEO of the organization, without any backing from the immediate line manager. So you can imagine what happens when you bypass your line manager and go to his boss. What do you think will happen? Your line manager feels insulted, he feels ignored, he feels offended, and he might lash back at you. He might react in ways that you can't expect or predict. Even your boss's boss may not appreciate that in some cases. And your sponsor is looking like a fool because, hey, I thought this guy was politically mature and smart, and look what he's doing, basically, embarrassing me in public. Signaling ambition before relational trust is built. There's no point placing ambition before trust. Unless people trust you, your ambition is not going to be rewarded. That's common sense, right? And I see people making this mistake all the time. People from India, for example, I've seen examples in the Middle East as well, that you're ambitious, but you're not politically mature. You're not that street smart or strategic enough. So before that trust is built between you and the sponsor, for example, or you and your boss, or you and somebody else who's a decision maker, you basically say, I want to get promoted. I want this, I want this, I want that. And the person on the other end is thinking, yeah, but it's like a shopping list, but how do I know whether you can deliver? I don't even know you well. I haven't seen your performance long enough. The trust has not been developed. So hold back on your ambition before and start building trust, right? And a lot of people treat hierarchy as dirty politics, And I've heard this expression a lot. Politics is dirty. I won't play politics. I won't dirty my hands getting into the muck. Let some other people play politics. Well, guys, I got news for you. If you're not street smart, then you're not going to get anywhere in your career, right? If you want to play the noble game, you will remain a spectator. You will not be on the field, right? Hierarchy is a structural reality. Politics is a reality in almost every organization. Whether you play it or not is up to you. Like I always say, choices have consequences, right? So I've given you 4 misplays, right? And of course, the 5th misplay is venting emotion to the wrong people at the wrong time. Basically, the appraisal is coming up. 1 week before that, you barge into your boss's room and say, I've had enough, there's too much stress. I've waited long enough for the promotion. You guys are not respecting my performance, blah, blah, blah. Or you talk to the CEO, maybe the same vein, or HR, for example. How is that helping you? Now, this is all smart people making these mistakes, okay? Mind you, these are not like people with low IQs. These are pretty smart people. I've seen that. I have made the same mistake during my corporate career, right? So we talked about many things, right? But practically, what can you change? That's the whole idea, right? The outcome of the session should be that something you change in yourself or the way you do things that can get you unstuck in your career. That is my first question, right, of the day in the session. Why are you stuck? Where have you been stuck? So what to change? I'm going to give you a few, not big, small behavioral shifts that can make you safer to back. And that's the key thing here. I'm not going to talk to you about how to get better at IFRS or financial modeling or valuation. That you know already. You can learn from your curriculum or whatever, right? This is basically organizational politics, organizational psychology in a way, right? And this single question I'm going to ask you is going to predict your career trajectory. Trust me. This one question is going to tell you how far you will go in your career, right? And that's this question. Do senior people in your organization currently feel safe backing you publicly, or do they support you only in private conversations? Yeah, that's the question. I want you to ask yourself this question. Write it down somewhere. Yes, no, whatever. You don't have to share it here right now. Think hard about the conversations you have heard, about what people have told you, the emails you have received, the hints you have got when you read between the lines, if you can, when people tell you something. Do you have a sponsor who can back you publicly, or they only tell you in one-on-one conversations? But once you leave the room, and once they are in a senior room, your name is not going to come up. Your name is not going to be mentioned ever. Somebody else's name will be mentioned. They get promoted. So answer this question honestly, and if that's not the case, then it's time to act from your side, right? Or I'll tell you another way to act as well, right? A small experiment you can do. For the next 7 days, at just one behavior, not all, just one. I'm going to show you some behaviors. At just one of these behaviors intentionally. That's it. I'm not asking you to do a lot of things because that never get done. Just one behavior. What's one behavior? The timing of when you speak up. Watch that. And we talked about timing, right? When to say certain things, waiting to say certain things. You can adjust that, or you can adjust how you disagree with senior colleagues. Right now, it may not be helping you. It may not be making you look safe the way you disagree with senior colleagues. Maybe you want to adjust that behavior. I don't know. It's your call. Number 3, how visibly you claim success once you have achieved success. And we talked about that earlier. How do you do that? Do you do it immediately and publicly, or do you wait for the right moment? Or do you wait for your sponsor to claim success? How do you regulate emotions under pressure? A lot of us grew up in families and societies and countries where emotions are very visible. I know that's the case in India. I think that's the case in Africa as well. You can see that in TV serials, movies, at work, at home. People are very loud, very emotional. Everything is about emotion, right? But you take that emotion to the workplace, it can backfire and backfire badly. So how do you regulate emotions under pressure when you feel angry or frustrated or bitter, or anxious or depressed or whatever, for some reason, whatever reason, even if temporarily. Maybe do you want to adjust that one behavior? How do you deliberately protect key relationships? What are key relationships in your career? Your mentors, your sponsor, the very important person who's going to back you in the room, your boss, and any other person who is of strategic interest to you in the organization. May not be in the same department, maybe not in the same location. How do you deliberately protect the relationships? How often do you engage with them? How often do you appreciate them? How often do you make them look good? So we have got 5 behaviors, right? And try this experiment for 1 week. So today is Friday. Try it for a week starting Monday. Observe the reactions that you get and decide whether it works in your environment or not. I don't know. You come from different environments, different countries, different cities, different organizations. There's not one template that can be used. See what works and see what doesn't work, and then adjust accordingly, right? We're all smart people. We're not stuck anywhere. Right? So my closing is, we are going to go from insight, which is what we've been talking about, to action, right? Next steps. So the public session, this is what we're doing right now, is basically the surface layer of my work. So as Sunju mentioned in his introduction earlier, I run lots of workshops, but all the deeper work that I do happens in closed room settings, right? With leadership teams, with senior professionals that are stuck, organizations stuck culturally, like I mentioned recently about workshops that I've run, where people, where the system is not well designed, for example, and people jump hierarchy. So the real work that happens, the real work that I do is in closed rooms, because that's when people really open up and you go into depth and you find out what's holding them back and what's holding the organization back and how to take it to the next level. Yeah. So to summarize, beyond competence, which was the title of this session, beyond competence, guys, careers move through power, right? Whether you like it or not, that's the reality. Right? In collective systems like we have in Middle East, Africa, and Asia, competence is assumed, but careers move to who power is willing to back. Who is your sponsor willing to back? Who is a sponsor willing to back? No power, no progress. If you don't have a power backing you, you're not going to go anywhere, right? So the last line to you that I want you to remember is, you should want to make backing you the obvious call for a sponsor. And you should do everything that's possible to make that happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Binod. Thank you very much. So we're going to have a Q&A.
The floor is open to questions. If anyone has
Yeah.
questions, and Sanju will have to read the questions to me, and I can mention the name of the person asking as well. If you can give me your name and location and any other details about you, it will be helpful in your question, please. Thank you.
So while the participants are thinking about the question, I got a question for you, Binod. So you said something which struck me. You said if you want to remain noble, you'll remain a spectator.
Yes.
Yes. When you say remaining noble, what behaviors are you referring to? Moral purity, avoidance of politics, or fear of discomfort? If you can give us few examples of, I would say, playing dirty politics in a graceful way.
So yeah, it's a good question actually, and it's something I come across quite often, Sanju. So you have, because of the conditioning that we have in collectivist cultures, where families, parents tell us, you have to be fair, you have to be honest, you have to be reasonable all the time. You don't try to show off, don't try to showboat of your work. Keep your head down, just do the work. You know what I'm saying? I've heard this a lot from my coaching clients, my CFA students, from people I mentor. And what this reveals is a fundamental lack of understanding of how organizations work in reality, right? So when you say these things, I won't play politics, for example, I will not, say, so for example, when people invite you for a social event after work and you say, no, I want to be home. I don't like mingling with people. That sends in a strong signal, by the way. It doesn't harm you really. Actually, it's increasing your social capital. That's one example, for example, yeah. Unless it's really important that you have to go home. But what's the harm of spending an hour with colleagues and your boss in a very informal setting, right? Or someone saying, you know what, I don't want to go to my boss and tell him what I achieved the last 6 months because he should know about it anyway. Well, your boss has got many people reporting to him probably. He's got other worries on his mind, especially how to manage his boss as well, right? So if you think, if you believe in the maxim that people should come to you because you have done hard work and you're brilliant, that's not going to work. There's an old proverb that I think originated in some part of the world saying that only the crying baby gets the milk. You got to be visible. You got to speak up for yourself, not hype it up. Just state the achievements and the impact it made for the company and what your role was. So things like this, so this attitudes about, oh, I won't play politics, I don't want to talk about this, is a very collectivist culture mindset, I find. You would not find this so much maybe in individualistic cultures because they are raised, they are conditioned, they are wired to perform and be visible. Yeah, and be assertive and aggressive in chasing their career. Yeah.
Thank you, Binod. So we got the first question from participant to Mr. Douglas Ajay. The question is, when is it wise to explore other opportunities versus staying with the hope of making things right?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question for me to answer because it depends completely on your situation, right? And the context, and your background, and your objectives, and your personality traits, and blah blah blah. So I'm afraid, unless I know more, and this session is not the right platform to explore or dive into that in depth. I can't really give an answer to that. I don't want to mislead anyone here. I hope you understand.
Yeah, sure. So another question from Fasil. Uh, so I always cringe on companies that ask for authenticity. How do you define authenticity when companies ask you to bring it back to your work?
He's talking specifically of French companies, is he?
Yeah, cringe. I always cringe on companies that ask for authenticity.
So can you explain that word? What? What
And
on
I
companies?
always cringe on companies that ask for authenticity. How would you define authenticity when companies ask you to bring it to your work?
Again, it's quite subjective, to be honest. Depends on the context, and I don't know the background of the context, so it's difficult to say. But I'll make a few broad statements, which is that you must never. It's very. You must be very aware of bringing your whole self to work. It's very nice to say, bring your whole self to work, be authentic at work. But let's face it, none of us want to see the authentic self of our own colleagues, right? How do you think other people like to see the authentic self of ourselves? Uh, do you really want to show and how you are completely to your boss and colleagues? Probably not. They may not like what they see sometimes, or they may like what they see. So I would say, without knowing the background, show what you have that you want them to see that will help you in your career. Show what you have, don't make it up, that you want them to see that you think will help you in your career. So I'm not talking about blanket authenticity, say everything about yourself. I basically give a complete download. But this is what, as far as you're concerned, this is the real me for this particular project or context or role or whatever, and that's what you have. But yeah, bringing your whole self to work is probably a risky idea.
Okay. Fasil, so Fasil is from CFA Society Ethiopia.
Oh,
So
hi,
he's a
Fasil.
story. Yeah, that was Fasil.
Yeah.
And now we got a question from Daniel from Ghana. The question is, how do you manage a perfectionist manager who finds fault in the smallest of efforts?
Yeah, this is not
You got bug
uncommon.
everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. You said it right, Sanjay. You find them everywhere, right? The
Yeah.
micromanaging, hypercritical, oh, perfectionist boss, right? I've had quite a few. And Daniel, to be honest, it's quite difficult, right? Um, because they are so demanding that even if you make a small mistake, although you may have delivered the entire project well, one small error is enough for them to bring it up at the appraisal, right? That's going to be difficult. I don't know the context again, so or the organization, so it's again difficult to give a specific reply. But I think one thing that I've seen working in some situations is when you develop a good relationship of trust with this perfectionist manager, right? And it's not easy, but once you deliver some projects brilliantly, right, then they sort of may start easing off from you. I had a boss like this, by the way. That's why I'm saying this 25, 30 years ago. And this person was so demanding, so perfectionist, so assertive, so aggressive. But then I became quite confident. I became more proactive. I started giving him things that he didn't even ask me. Before he even asked me, it was on his table, if you know what I mean. And after that, he would let me run projects on my own. And we are talking about a big four firm, by the way. He would pretty much let me, I was not even a manager, but he would let me run without a manager. So you have me, a supervisor, reporting directly to the partner of the firm. Because after the initial 3, 6, 9 months of intense pressure on me and finding out where I crack and why I crack and finding out that I could withstand that pressure, he backed off and said, okay, you know what, now you do stuff. And I don't think I disappointed him after that. But that again depends on the situation, on the boss, on the kind of work you're handling. So it doesn't mean that my tactic may work in your situation, to be honest, right? It's quite case to case, unfortunately, in such cases.
Thank you. So I'm just mindful of the time.
Yes,
I'll take one last question from Bilal Basler.
sure.
Yeah, Bilal is from the mountains.
Okay.
So the question is, what is a healthy way to play politics while keeping relationships healthy with other colleagues and other seniors? Just a few
Yeah.
basic ideas would be useful.
Hi, Bilal. So I think, again, it depends a lot on the organization, but I can give some few broad rules, right? That might be helpful. I think the most important thing is to understand the culture of the organization and the psychology of the people you're dealing with. I think that's absolutely important. And going in without that knowledge and behaving without that knowledge is going to get you crucified, right? So that's the first point, right? So who is a micromanager? Who is a democratic leader? Who is a backbiter? Who is a gossiper? Who is a sponsor? Who is a potential mentor? Who can help you in other ways if you're not able to do the work? Who can take up your work? Things like that. I mean, just look at the landscape, the career landscape there, right? That's number one. Uh, Number two is, of course, you should not intentionally harm or damage anyone else, right? Or the organization. You should not do anything unethical or that lacks integrity. That's a no-no, right? And since CF Institute has some very clear and rigorous standards of professional conduct, we should avoid doing violating any of this or even or creating the perception of violation of any of those, right? In terms of integrity and all those kind of things. So that's a given. Like competence is a given for career progression. That's a given. But awareness of the culture, awareness of the people you're dealing with, right? Um, and once you're aware, then based on that, you build your playbook, Bilal. Based on this awareness, you build your playbook. If it's an individualistic culture, is it a collectivist culture, right? What kind of boss is it? Is he a boss who likes let me do stuff? Or is he a boss who's micromanaging? Then from there, you customize your approach. So for me, it's very difficult for me to say what should be the political playbook. But basically, the playbook should be what helps you achieve what you want, right? At the end of the day, without, like I said, harming or damaging anybody else. How do you do that? How can you do it? Who are the people who will help you? What are your skills that allow you to help do that, basically? I know it sounds frustratingly generic, but it's impossible to give precise guidelines on how to play politics. There's a book on this topic. Maybe I can share that with you later after this call. I forgot the exact name and all that. I'll find it. I read it a few years ago. It is a very practical guide on politics in organization. And maybe I can share that I don't know how we can share that with people in this chat, in this session. But rather than me going on and on about how to play the game, I think I can share the link to that book, and that's probably going to be more comprehensive.
Sure, we can share that on
Yes,
your behalf,
sure,
Binod. And
sure.
we have a question as well. So can we have a copy of your material shared by Binod? So yes, we'll share the presentation. We
Yes,
have your emails through the registration.
yeah,
So we'll share the slides.
absolutely.
So yeah. So I think that would be it. Have 1 minute to 7:30. So I would
Fantastic.
like to thank everyone, each one of you, for your attention and for your participation as well as your engagement. So conversations like this matters because careers do unfold in isolation, not in isolation. So on behalf of the CFA Society Mauritius and our CFA societies in Africa, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to Binod for sharing his insights about the honest, grounded, and deeply relevant to the realities many professionals across Africa navigate today. So we're talking about a book, Binod. So there's one book I remember, How to Win Friends and Influence People
Influence
by
people.
Dale Carnegie.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
so
there's that book is there. There's also a book written by a guy called Binod Shankar called "Let's Get Real."
yeah,
I
that's
was
another
I
book.
was I
Yeah.
was hoping you would mention that, Sanju, at
And
some point.
yes, but that book as well. So I've read it
Yeah.
personally. You got hit. I got slapped in the face while reading this book. Many mistakes I did. So yes, this one as well is highly recommend.
And for anyone who wants to contact me, just to show my credentials at the bottom left corner of the screen, my email is binod@binodshankar.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm quite active, quite engaged on LinkedIn. Please connect with on me on LinkedIn. Send me an invite. And it's amazing to talk to all those people from different cities in Africa. I grew up in Africa, as some of you might know, in Nigeria, from the age of 5 to the age of, well, the age of 6 to the age of 15 in northern Nigeria. So and I've traveled in Africa. I've gone to Morocco, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, mainly for hiking and cycling. It's a continent that I have deep connections with, and I'm so glad to talk to so many of you from different parts of Africa. And I hope one day we can meet face to face. And thank you so much to CFA Society East Africa. And thank you so much to CFA Society Mauritius and Sanju. I also want to thank Grace and Ruth for hosting this important event. Thank you so much, guys, and have a nice weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah.